But Ryan, he was everywhere. He acted like the CFO, the creative director, and king of the castle, one employee recalled. He'd mock people, rewrite everything, then blame us for delays.
Ryan Reynolds is officially in meltdown mode after his filthy workplace behavior finally got exposed for what it was: pure manipulation and unchecked arrogance.
And God help you if you disagreed with him.
Back in 2014, while hiding behind Blake's failed brand Preserve, he was reportedly screaming at staff, mocking their mental health, and forcing some to take medication just to survive the toxic environment.
The source there says that Ryan always plays the nice guy, but the truth is, he ran Preserve as a tyrant.
He played the role of Hollywood's sweetheart while quietly destroying people's lives behind closed doors. In 2014, Blake Lively made headlines for launching her dreamy lifestyle brand, Preserve.
Preserve, there was a big expose in Daily Mail last week about it.
It was supposed to be Goop meets Pinterest, with rustic charm and handcrafted vibes. But behind all the honey-glazed aesthetics and vintage filters, the reality was a disaster. What no one knew at the time was that Ryan Reynolds wasn't just the supportive husband behind the scenes. He was running the whole show, and not in a good way.
And how 6 of her employees came out and said it was a horrible place to work.
Former staff didn't hold back. They didn't call it disorganized or stressful. They called it a horrible place to work. And the stories coming out now paint Ryan not as the charming, funny guy he pretends to be, but as a full-blown control freak. He wasn't just offering creative input. He acted like the CFO, creative director, and CEO all rolled into one. He'd march in, insult people's work, rewrite everything, then vanish, leaving the team to clean up the chaos he created. And when delays happened, which they always did, he made sure everyone but him took the blame.
The source claimed there were times people didn't get paid for weeks, but Ryan always made sure his people got what they needed. Everyone else, disposable.
But the worst part wasn't just the mood swings or the humiliation. It was the way people were paid or not paid. Ryan had his chosen ones, the people he liked, who got paid on time every time. Everyone else? Forgotten. Some employees had to wait up to 3 months just to get their basic salaries. Even junior staff and assistants were constantly chasing down payments, while Ryan made sure his inner circle stayed protected and pampered. And this wasn't just a case of mismanagement. It was a pattern. It was systematic. Preserve didn't fail because the market wasn't ready for it. It failed because the people running it, especially Ryan, created an environment so toxic that it imploded from within.
3 of them even sued Blake Lively. 3 out of 8 employees sued her.
Out of 8 full-time employees, 3 ended up suing Blake. That's almost half the team. And while Blake took the public hit for it, insiders say Ryan was the real problem. He was the one pulling the strings, making the decisions, and breaking the company from the inside.
And they were paid hush money, apparently, and Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's publicist, and Ryan Reynolds' publicist, helped bury this.
Now, here's where it gets even uglier. Those lawsuits, they didn't go to court, they disappeared, quietly. All 3 employees were allegedly paid hush money, not just severance packages or settlements, hush money. The goal wasn't justice or resolution, it was silence, clean exits, no headlines. And just like that, the meltdown was swept under the rug, packaged up in NDAs, and never spoken about again. Until now.
Of course, we all know that too. So Radar Online is referring to a story written by Rob Shooter on Substack, where he says that Blake barely showed up.
What we're seeing now isn't just the fall of a brand, it's the unraveling of a carefully curated public image. Ryan has spent years crafting this persona of the relatable husband, the sarcastic nice guy, the internet's favorite man. But the people who actually worked with him, they saw something completely different. They saw ego, they saw manipulation, and they saw someone who knew exactly what he was doing and just didn't care.
Ryan, he was everywhere. He acted like the CFO, the creative director, and king of the castle.
And let me tell you, Ryan Reynolds didn't just show up at Preserve with a few casual suggestions. He ran the place like a micro-dictatorship. According to multiple former employees, He didn't trust anyone to make a decision witout his input. Every project had to go through him, and even when something was nearly finished, he'd step in, rip it apart, and redo it. Then, when that caused delays or confusion, he'd turn around and blame the very people he just overruled. It wasn't just controlling, it was calculated. The power structure inside Preserve was so skewed it barely made sense.
And God help you if you disagreed with him. Ryan would breeze in, criticize everyone's work, then disappear, one employee recalled. He'd mock people, rewrite everything, then blame us for delays.
One of the most baffling moves was when Blake's brother, Eric Lively, who hadn't been on any business radar since his short-lived acting gigs in the early 2000s, was suddenly appointed as creative director. Staffers at the time were stunned. According to insider reports published in Rob Shooter's Substack article, this decision came directly from Ryan. Eric had zero background in branding or creative direction. The only explanation anyone had was that Ryan wanted someone he could control, someone who wouldn't challenge his authority. And Eric fit that mold perfectly.
And the worst part, Blake would let him. I think this sounds pretty familiar, right?
In that same article, Rob Shooter laid it out bluntly. Ryan wasn't a background supporter. He was the one calling the shots. Staff described him as acting like the king of the castle, strutting in unannounced, making sweeping criticisms, and then vanishing. Meanwhile, Blake Lively was mostly absent. Her name was on the brand, her face was on the press tours, but inside the company, she was practically a ghost. It was Ryan who ran the meetings, made the decisions, and steered the ship straight into the ground.
Lively's brother Eric was hired as Preserve creative director, as decision staffers believe Reynolds pushed for. So they're saying here that Ryan was the one who actually got Eric the job. I don't know. I'm guessing Blake had something to say there too.
One ex-employee went on record saying, "He humiliated us. If you disagreed with him, you were frozen out for weeks." This wasn't just about being tough or direct. It was about creating fear. People stopped sharing ideas because they knew Ryan would shut them down or ridicule them. And when did someone speak up? They'd get quietly sidelined, excluded from meetings, ignored group emails. That's how things were done.
And I feel like that's exactly how we've been seeing him, what he's been doing on it ends with us as well.
The failure of Preserve wasn't about weak marketing or a tough economy. It was about a toxic work culture that revolved around control, ego, and intimidation. Every single mistake the company made had Ryan's fingerprints all over it, but none of the accountability ever stuck to him.
A lot of people have been speculating that he is the mastermind behind all of this, the takeover of the movie. I don't know. I think they work as a team, but this is kind of revealing as well.
One of the most disturbing details to surface in the fallout of Preserve is the use of non-disclosure agreements. Not as standard legal precautions, but as weapons to silence people permanently.
One source claimed, "I know someone who got $300,000 just to sign on an NDA and never speak about what happened."
According to reporting from Radar Online and follow-ups on Rob Shooter's Substack, at least one employee was paid $300,000, not as a settlement for wrongful termination or workplace mistreatment, but explicitly to never speak again about what happened behind the scenes. No lawsuits, no interviews, no social media slips, just a fat check and a lifetime gag.
It was that bad. Also in the Substack article, it says here that they sold the world this fairy tale marriage and wholesome business image. But behind the scenes, it was all smoke and mirrors, and Ryan was holding the match.
The NDA wasn't some preemptive formality either. It was activated after the damage was done. This employee had worked directly under Ryan Reynolds during the worst months of Preserve's decline and had allegedly documented a pattern of emotional manipulation, verbal harassment, and chronic underpayment. Sources say the employee had a detailed paper trail, emails, texts, meeting recordings, the kind of stuff that could bury reputations. And so, within weeks of their exit, the deal was struck. The money landed, and just like that, they were erased from the story. And it wasn't a one-off. Multiple staffers have since confirmed, anonymously, that NDAs were part of the offboarding process if you even hinted at raising concerns, especially if your complaint involved Ryan. These weren't protective clauses to keep trade secrets safe, they were muzzle orders. If you mentioned the toxic environment, the favoritism, the financial manipulation, you were reminded of the terms. And if you pushed harder, a confidential resolution was arranged. Translation: take the money and disappear.
Katie sent me. Thank you so much, Katie. This is interesting.
This explains why for nearly a decade, Preserve remained a failed brand with no public scandal attached to it. The entire venture collapsed in under a year, and yet not a single formal expose was published until 2024. That's when Radar Online finally ran a feature exposing the internal rot, 10 years after the company folded. By then, Blake and Ryan had rebranded themselves as America's favorite couple. The meltdown had been contained so well, nobody even remembered Preserve as anything more than a misstep. That kind of information control doesn't happen naturally, it's orchestrated. So while the world was watching Ryan Reynolds crack jokes on Twitter and post Deadpool memes, employees were being silenced with 5- and 6-figure hush deals to cover up a corporate environment built on fear, favoritism, and intimidation. Preserve wasn't just a brand that failed. It was a shell company for Ryan's unchecked ego, and those NDAs were the duct tape holding it together. And now, in a twist of pure hypocrisy, Blake Lively is painting herself as a victim of workplace toxicity in her legal battles with director Justin Baldoni.
And while Blake is now positioning herself as a victim of workplace toxicity in her legal battle against It Ends With Us, director Justin Baldoni, Insider, says she and Ryan ran their own dysfunctional empire and used money to make it all disappear.
In filings submitted, her legal team described her as a woman who had to endure a hostile and unsafe environment during filming. The irony? That's the exact same language former Preserve employees used about her and Ryan's company. The only difference is, those employees never got the chance to tell their stories, because every time someone tried, a check arrived, a contract followed, and a name disappeared from the timeline.
People were paid off, one source claimed. I know someone who got $300,000 just to sign on an NDA.
Rob Shooter's expose put it best. Preserve was toxic, but it wasn't because of the pressure. It was because of the people running it. And now that the curtain's being pulled back, we're finally seeing what those NDAs were hiding. Not a brand failure, not a PR mistake. An entire system built to silence abuse, wrapped in lifestyle branding, and sold with a smile. In September 2024, during a cozy promo interview with US Weekly, Caitlin Olsen casually admitted that she had only met Blake Lively exactly twice.
They do follow, unfollow, block each other to show the world where they stand. Something we learned when Justin Baldoni was blocked.
Once at an award show, once briefly at a Wrexham match. That's it. No sleepovers, no mutual vacations, no long-winded girl-supporting girl friendships. Just 2 random run-ins. So when just 3 months later in December 2024, Caitlin showed up in the Wrap, calling Blake kind, lovely, honest, and generous, while publicly supporting her in the lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. People noticed, and they didn't buy it.
He blocked me. And his publicists were replying like, oh my God, is he 12? What's happening? And the reason he did that was because at that point, there were no SH allegations. There was this list of points that he was supposed to, that they blackmailed Justin Baldoni to sign off on.
The timeline is crystal clear. The lawsuit with Baldoni was filed in early November 2020. Blake claimed she was emotionally distressed by his on-set behavior and portrayed herself as a woman under siege. Then, like magic, public statements from friends began to pop up in the press, most notably, Caitlin Olsen. But here's the issue. There's no actual friendship here, no joint interviews, no shared podcast episodes, no events, no candid photos, not even a birthday shout-out. Just 2 interactions and suddenly she's a character witness in a Hollywood legal mess?
Where Katie Olsen is interviewed in Us Weekly, and she said she only met Blake twice. So that they're such close friends, not really.
This wouldn't be a red flag on its own, but the pattern is too neat. In a 2023 Substack piece by Rob Shooter, he described the inner workings of Blake and Ryan's PR machine as scripted alliances. He specifically mentioned how the couple frequently uses soft press and curated relationships to push narrative arcs. In the Baldoni situation, it looks like they activated the same blueprint. Drag a public figure in for credibility, whether they're actually friends or not.
I would love to hang out with them both more. And then she added at the end, I love Ryan. She didn't say that she loves Blake.
Sources close to Ryan Reynolds confirmed to Radar Online in January 2025 that his PR firm, Leslie Sloan Media, had a full list of safe names willing to issue vague statements of support if needed. Caitlin Olsen? She was on that list. Another insider, speaking anonymously, told Daily Mail that Caitlin didn't even know half the details about Blake's allegations, but felt obligated to issue a public statement because of shared investments and social pressure. That investment? Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds co-own Wrexham Football Club, making the couples business adjacent, if not actually close.
Blake Lively publicly, it says here in an article in The Wrap, that Caitlin speaks out in support of Blake Lively following her Justin Baldoni complaint. The high potential star calls her fellow actress kind, lovely, honest, and generous.
That alone raises more questions. Caitlin Olsen and Rob McElhenney may be associated with Ryan through Wrexham, but what's the connection to Blake? Why would Caitlin put her own credibility on the line for someone she barely knows? Industry analysts say it's not about loyalty, it's about self-preservation. Because when Ryan Reynolds gets involved in a scandal, being neutral doesn't cut it. You either declare your support or you get cut out of the Hollywood party.
What do they have on her? And that's the thing that I think everyone starts suspecting now every time someone comes out to support them. What do they have on them? What did they threaten them with?
Multiple Hollywood publicists told Page Six that supporting Blake and Ryan is now seen as a career safety move. Especially with a lawsuit swirling, being on Team Reynolds keeps you out of the crosshairs. One unnamed executive called it the new Scientology. Smile, say nice things, and stay on their good side, or risk being excluded from the social and financial circles they dominate. It's not friendship, it's professional insurance.
Allegedly. I'm just putting it out there because I think, why would you put yourself out there? At that point, though, I have to say, in December, this was before Justin Baldoni had come out and countersued Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and Leslie Sloan. So I think that at this point, it was much safer to come out and support Blake Lively.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Olsen's comments are riddled with inconsistencies. When The Wrap asked her about supporting Blake, she said she was grateful to call her a friend. But just weeks earlier, she'd said in that US Weekly piece that she had only met Blake twice. Which is it? If you've met someone twice, how do you suddenly become grateful to call them a friend in a lawsuit battle? Unless something else is at play.
And also, there's not one single photo that I could find online of Caitlin and Blake together. So the post where Blake praised the two of them last week, like, I love these guys and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you don't really, because you don't really know Caitlin because you met her probably a couple of times. And they were too busy back then in September. Then I'm thinking, like, now.
And there's something even stranger. No visual proof of their friendship exists. In the Instagram era, that's rare. There are no selfies, no red carpet photos, no dinner shots, no Wrexham behind-the-scenes candids, not even a blurry phone pic. Hollywood friendships live on social media. But in this case, it's as if the friendship was conjured out of thin air to serve a legal purpose. This PR sleight of hand isn't new for Ryan and Blake. According to Insider Buzz, a niche Hollywood tracking site, they've built an entire ecosystem of supporters over the years. Actors, influencers, designers, who owe them favors or brand deals.
And also the fact that Sophie Turner is following Ryan Reynolds. Why would she do that and not follow Blake Lively? That doesn't make any sense to me. I went into Blake's account too to see if she follows Sophie Turner. and she doesn't.
The site lists 5 other public figures who have issued vague praise or defense of the couple despite never being seen with them socially. These include one wellness influencer who had a brand collab with Mint Mobile, and an actor who once pitched an ad campaign for Aviation Gin. Coincidence? Not likely. Hollywood insiders say Blake and Ryan's inner circle is now a fully curated illusion, a list of convenient names deployed at key moments to soften scandal or boost credibility. It's not friendship, it's not loyalty, it's scripted, strategic, and transactional. And Caitlin Olsen's unexpected support in the Baldoni lawsuit? It wasn't just odd, it was the clearest example yet of how fast a Hollywood narrative can be bought, packaged, and broadcast. No history required. In October 2020, People magazine ran a glowing piece on a girls' night out in New York City.
So Sophie Turner, who is, I think, still really close with Taylor Swift, was also a part of this girls' gang.
The headline, Taylor Swift steps out with Blake Lively, Sophie Turner, and Brittany Mahomes. The photo went viral. 4 megastars walking side by side, laughing, arms linked, seemingly inseparable. But fast forward less than a year, and something strange has happened. Sophie Turner is no longer following Blake Lively on Instagram. That digital thread? Gone. What's even more telling, she still follows Ryan Reynolds.
And there were reports in the media about all of them going out for dinner. Here's the story: Taylor Swift steps out for dinner with Blake Lively, Sophie Turner, and Brittany Mahomes.
That detail, spotted by fans in April 2025, isn't just tabloid fluff. In celebrity circles, especially among the A-list, Instagram is political currency. The following is a signal, an unfollow is a statement, and when someone like Sophie, who publicly praised Blake just months earlier, goes silent, it doesn't go unnoticed. Sophie even reposted an article about Blake's postpartum body massage with the caption, in all caps, "Yes, Blake Lively. One more time for the people in the back." It was loud, supportive, emphatic. Now it's awkwardly erased from memory, and her follow list.
In New York City, that was in October 2023. Then there's a story of Sophie Turner who praises Blake Lively after she reveals post-birth body insecurities.
Blake, for her part, doesn't follow Sophie either. Nor does she follow Travis Kelce, despite public interactions, dinners, and mutual shoutouts during Taylor Swift's 2023-24 tour circuit.
I also noticed that Blake Lively is not following Travis Kelce. I don't know if she did to begin with, but all of these things, it does actually matter because this is the way that these people operate.
According to a December 2023 story from Page 6, Blake and Travis had shared several private dinners with Taylor and Brittany Mahomes. But by early T5, those followbacks were nowhere to be found, not even a like on major milestones. When Travis and Taylor's relationship hit peak publicity during the Super Bowl season, Blake was notably silent. And in this industry, silence speaks louder than tweets.
Elle magazine did a big story on this, saying that sharing a screen grab of an article detailing Lively's post, Turner wrote in capital letters, "Yes, Blake Lively, one more time for all the people in the back." Then People magazine did a story about Blake Lively, thanking Sophie Turner for supporting her.
A source close to WME, who manages several A-listers tied to both Ryan and Blake, told Radar Online in February that a quiet exodus is underway. Celebrities who once shared tables and vacations with the Reynolds Lively brand are now, quote, distancing themselves for legal and reputational reasons. The source continued, "There's fear of subpoenas, there's fear of association, and frankly, there's fear of being dragged into a drama that isn't theirs."
Sophie Turner is not following Blake Lively on Instagram, which I find very weird since they were out to dinners together, since they publicly tagged and supported each other in Instagram posts.
And the drama? It's deep. With multiple workplace allegations, NDAs tied to preserve, and ongoing litigation involving Blake and director Justin Baldoni, the Reynolds orbit has become legally radioactive. According to a March 2025 leak on Duke Moi, at least 2 former friends of the couple were contacted by lawyers for background inquiries. Neither were named, but both immediately began unfollowing Blake on social platforms that same week. No coincidence there. A report from The Hollywood Reporter dated January 2025 noted this exact shift. The article compared Wrexham's early days, where stars like David Beckham, Dwayne Johnson, and even Emma Stone showed support, to the 2025 lineup, which was suspiciously civilian. No A-listers, no Instagram stories from high-profile accounts, just corporate partners and soccer fans. The red carpet wasn't rolled out, it was rolled up. The timing is too sharp, the gaps are too wide, and the silence from those once vocal friends is too loud. These aren't coincidences. These are quiet exits, strategically made. Because when lawsuits start flying and reputations start cracking, no one wants to be the next name dragged into the headlines by proximity. So what do you think, Hollywood is finally done protecting them, or are we just scratching the surface of something way darker?